Here we go. It's the Sunday morning service. We're a few minutes late this morning, but some Sundays are a little slower in movement than others. But here we go. There we be. It's the Sunday morning service with an additional call to prayer.
Allahu Akbar.
All right. Here we go. The Rogues Tavern, Sunday morning, November 18th. And we will be continuing in our King James Version Bible at chapter 5. But we do need to double back here to something we started in the beginning, and that was reading this section at the very beginning of the Bible, Jesus, man for all time. I think I read out the first and second paragraph of this. And we'll read out some more from it. Jesus, man for all time. Devout Jews still expected the Messiah to come as foretold in the scriptures of Isaiah, Micah, and others, but they were hardly prepared for a Messiah like Jesus. Many of them were expecting a godlike warrior who would help them throw off Roman rule. They were certainly not expecting a traveling preacher who spoke equally with Pharisee and Samaritan, with rich and poor. They were not expecting a carpenter's son turned teacher. Most people in the Palestine knew nothing about the birth of Jesus. Some wise men from the east knew, Matthew tells us, and came seeking the infant. Guided by a special star in the heavens, and a handful of shepherds knew. Luke tells how an angel appeared to them in the night and told them that a Savior was born in Bethlehem, the city of David, and that they would find the baby lying in a manger. After they had seen the Christ child, the shepherds ran to tell others what had happened. We'll continue that one another time. All right. So we've gotten, this is the so far in here. We've only gotten to chapter 5 of Genesis, and that's where we're going to continue our readings today, is chapter 5. See what chapter 5 of the book of Genesis has to say. Genesis, chapter 5. This is the book of generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, and in the likeness of God made he him, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called them their name, Adam, in the day that they were created. Gotta read that one right again. It's amazing how you can read and you insert words that aren't there. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. Wow, he lived to be a pretty old man. Pumped out a lot of kids, though. Poor Eve. And Seth lived 105 years, and begot Enos. Lived 105 years before he had his first kid. That's kind of actually impressive when you think about it. 105 years. And Adam lived 130 years before he begot a son in his own likeness, which was Seth. What happened to Abel and Cain? And Seth lived 105 years and begot Enos. And Seth lived after he begot Enos 807 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. He's a pretty old man. And Enos lived 90 years, and begot Canaan, and begot Canaan. And Enos lived after he begot Canaan 815 years, and begot sons and daughters. So he lived 815 years after he begot his son at 90 years. So he lived to be 905. Wow, they had some pretty decent lifetimes. Pretty extensive. What could you do if you lived to be 900 years old? The knowledge you could accumulate. And Enos lived 90 years. Enos lived... Get that one back. Get lost in this little fine print. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years, and begot Mahalaleel. Wow. I'll learn this. I really will. Notice a pattern here, though. They're having their kids younger and younger as it goes down the line here. Let's see if this pattern holds. And Canaan lived after he begot Mahalaleel 840 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. So they're all living to be 900 years old, having lots of kids. Not having their first one till they were pretty old, though. What do they have to do? They have to get some knowledge. And Mahalaleel lived 60 and 65 years. Hey, the pattern's holding. They're getting younger while having their first kids. And begot Jared. And Mahalaleel lived after he begot Jared 830 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years. Ooh, we're noticing another pattern here. They're dying younger, too. Okay, let's see if that pattern holds. And Jared lived 162 years. Oh, Jared waited to 162 before he begot Enoch. That's interesting. We had a pattern going, and Jared went and broke the pattern. And Jared lived after he begot Enoch. Let's get Enoch's name pronounced properly. Enoch is an important person. Enoch plays really big further into the Bible, and you'll want to hear about Enoch. And unfortunately, the book of Enoch is out of the Bible, and one day I'll have to track down a copy of the book of Enoch and read from that. And Jared lived 162 years after he begot Enoch. And Jared lived after he begot Enoch 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. Got a frog in the throat this morning. Tough one. I got to get myself a cough blocker for you guys. All right. And Jared lived after he begot Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. So he broke the pattern not only of having kids older, but living longer too. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. I can pronounce that, Methuselah. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. Well, Enoch goes back to the pattern. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. So Enoch walked with God. That's kind of an interesting one. Keep that one in your head somewhere, because Enoch, again, plays important roles. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And suddenly Enoch massively breaks the pattern. He doesn't even live a third of the lifespan of everyone previous to Enoch. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah, that's an interesting phrase. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. For God just took him. I guess Enoch just went with God instead of dying. That's kind of how you read that. And Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. And Methuselah breaks the pattern again. It goes back up. And Methuselah lived after he begot Lamech 782 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years. 969 years. That's actually a kind of cool number. And he died. So they do say the others died. But Enoch didn't die. Enoch was just taken with God. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. This is interesting. This is where Noah was born. Now, I'm not doing all the math here, but if you've been doing the math, you know, we're 5, 6, 8 generations out of 900 years plus. So, you know, we're centuries, millennia. We're 7 or 8 millennia out now since. And this is when Noah shows up. 7 millennia, 8 millennia later, Noah shows up. And we know where Noah is leading. Everyone knows the stories of Noah. Even if you're not a Christian, you know those stories. So let's continue here. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And Lamech lived after he begot Noah 595 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years. That's an interesting number, if you think about it. 777. 777. So Lamech was the first one to tag 777. And he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Names are tough. I'm going to get them now. I swear to God. I'll learn it. So Noah waited till he was 500 years old before having his first kid. Man. I thought having kids in my late 40s was tough. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. Oh, sorry, back this up. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. That's the end of chapter 5. Chapter 6. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters, the sons of God. Now, where the sons of God come from? That's not mentioned any time previous to this. You know, we've got all the sons and daughters of men. We've got God creating man. We've got no mention of God having sons. But now there's suddenly a mention of God having sons. Where does that come from? That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So these sons of God went, men's daughters, man, they're pretty hot. I guess that means we need to take some for ourselves. And so they did. And the Lord said, my spirit. We're going to have to pause for a moment. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Just had to take a quick break there and clear my throat and a couple other things. So we're into chapter 6, and where were we? Oh yes, it came to pass when the men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So all of a sudden here, out of nowhere, the sons of God take daughters, and then the Lord says, my spirit shall not always strive with men, that he is also flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. And they just suddenly cut the lifespan of man from 900 plus years to 120. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. Now, this is an interesting paragraph. Let's dissect this one for a moment. There were giants in the earth in those days. So the giants, were they on the earth or inside the earth? That's tough. It's also after that, when the sons of God, which we still have no idea where they came from, the sons of God came in unto the daughters, came in. So this is interesting. You got to read these exact words. The sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. Yeah, you're reading that right. Run that one through your head a few times. When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts, and that God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man unto the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. So God's suddenly upset because men are wicked, and he's feeling depressed. And the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. Repentive. I need a meaning here. Repenteth. I need a meaning on the word repentive. We're going to have to go pop in and grab a meaning on this, because the repentive, my brain is thinking something different, so I need to get a meaning on this one. R-E-P-E-N-T-E-T-H. Repentive. What is the meaning of to change one's mind? Okay, I am repentive. I'm changing my mind. Feeling regret. Okay, so God was regretting this. Okay, he was regretting man in a major way. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. And Noah was a just man and a just man and perfect in his generations. And Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. There we go, Japheth. And Japheth. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence. For the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. All right, so you're going to pitch it within and without with pitch. So make sure you're using pitch. Okay, to make those rooms. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make of it. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. So, in case you haven't gone through and studied this, I've, from time to time, it's been a curiosity to me. So a cubit, we can go cubits to meters. 1 cubit is just about half a meter in length. So if you go 1 meter, that's 2.1 cubits. All right, so there gives you some measurements there. We'll let that one sink into your head. So this is, at any rate, it doesn't matter. I don't know why I got sidetracked on that. So 300 cubits long, or the breadth. 300 cubits long, the breadth of it. 50 cubits, and the height. 300 cubits long. The breadth of it, 50 cubits, so it's 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high. So 300, that's only 150 meters in length. 150 meters in length and 25 meters high and 25 meters wide and 15 meters high. 15 meters high? That's like a 3-story building. If even a 3-story building. All right, it's like a 1.5-story building. It's not very big. All right, but anyway, it's square. All right, this is the fashion. And a window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof. With lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. These are pretty low stories if it's only 15 meters high. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh. This is actually kind of a little strange bit. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. From under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. It's kind of a weird start to it. Behold, yes, even I. Almost to say, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's really hard to believe that I would do this. But with thee I will establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of flesh, of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, and keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him. So he did. So did he. All right, that's chapter 6. So in chapter 6, we find out that God's suddenly upset with with his sons, God's sons, which are only mentioned here that I know of. I'll find out more later, but they're only mentioned here. It's like, where the hell did God's sons come from? So he's pretty pissed at God's sons. I'm not talking about man. Man is a whole nother separate thing here. God's sons, who took to them wives of men. Okay? Because they're very distinctive. They took wives of men. We don't know what they did with them. We assume they're partying, you know, kind of what happens down at the bars on Saturday nights, you know. Pulling the trains and other good stuff. Who knows? And God's like, man, I'm pissed at this. All right. It's time to wipe this shit off the face of the earth. So God commanded Noah to build an ark, a small ark at that, because when we take the measurements of a cubit from the Bible and we convert it to meters, you know, that's not a very big boat. And yet somehow he fitted two of every animal on the earth into it and all their food. All right. We'll go with it. It works. Chapter 7, and this will probably be where we end up for today. Since we're already running behind on everything, why not? Chapter 7, Genesis. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house unto the ark, into the ark. For thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens the male. Wait a minute. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and the female. Wait a minute. This is kind of confusing here. In the previous one, he told him to take a pair of each. Now he's told to take clean beasts by sevens. By sevens, 7 pairs. Yeah, by sevens, the male and his female. So you're taking 7 pairs, which is a little bit different than everything's ever described. You know, they say, hey, he took 2 by 2. How can you build? Well, sevens might actually be a viable amount to repopulate a species. 7 pairs. But that's only of the clean beasts. But of the beasts that are not clean, only take by 2, the male and female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet in 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth for 40 days. Okay, I'm adding words. This is what happens. You want to insert stuff. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, into the ark, because of the waters of the flood, of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creepeth upon the earth. There went in 2 and 2 unto Noah and the ark, and the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Now, this is kind of an interesting thought here when everyone talks about, and we'll get to the next one. Oh, and we'll include this one. This is verse 11, chapter 7. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Now, this is awful, very specific for the Bible. It's a very strange kind of specificity in that they name the exact month. They don't give a name for the month. They just say it's in Noah's 600th year of life, in his second month of his 600th year, on the 17th day of his second month of his 600th year. I need to play up those numbers. Those numbers would actually be kind of interesting to write them all down. At any rate, but what here is, it talks about the fountains of the great deep, the waters inside the earth, not just the heavens, but the waters inside the earth. The waters inside the earth burst forth along with the heavens opening up. Nobody ever talks about that. They'll say, oh, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Well, but the rain's not enough. You had to bring forth waters from elsewhere, waters from the deep, waters from the ocean. In the self same day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with them, into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, and every bird of every sort. So is there a difference between the fowl and bird? Why go every bird, every fowl after his kind, and every bird? I thought fowl and bird were the same thing. Maybe not. And they went unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. They kind of repeated themselves several times. They're really hammering home here the point that they went into the ark 2 by 2, all flesh, male and female. Yes, they went in, all male, female, 2 by 2. They're hammering that point home. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lift up, not lifted, it was lift up above the earth. It was lift up. That's kind of a tough one. And it was lift up above the earth. And the waters prevailed and were increased. The waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth. And all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail. 15 cubits. Well, we've already determined that a cubit, let's see, maybe I've got the wrong cubit. Cubits, yeah. Yeah, so it's 15 cubits, it equals, 2 cubits to a meter. 15 cubits, that's only 7 meters. 7 meters deep is not very deep. No, it's deep. Don't get me wrong. 7 meters is a pretty decent height, but still, it's only, 25 feet, give or take. All right. We're going to go look up a Bible cubit. How long is a Bible cubit? The cubit is the distance between the elbow and the tip of the middle finger. Just over a foot and a half, give or take. So 14 feet, okay. So, I'm not too far off, but, we're getting off track here. We're almost done. Okay. So we're still, and the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. It's like, how can the mountains be covered with a mere 15 cubits of water? You know, that doesn't make much sense. Especially some of the higher mountains. I mean, I got mountains around here that wouldn't be covered under 15 cubits of water. And all the flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of the fowl and of cattle and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died. And every living, notice they specify here that all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land. So I've come to understand here that when they say in, they mean on. In the dry land died. Which, of course, they would have to specify because somebody's bound to ask the question, well, what about all the fishes in the sea? Did they drown too? I'll let that one sink in for a moment. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So that ends chapter 7. We'll leave it there. We'll pick it up at chapter 8. But let's take that last sentence here, that from the time this went crazy to the time he loaded the ark to everything forward, the waters prevailed upon the earth for 150 days. So it was 150 days floating around inside a square box. Now, science, if you're kind of a science geek, I happen to be a bit from time to time, but one of the cool experiments was done because people are always after Noah's Ark. How could Noah's Ark survive? Well, they actually built it a scale model, not a real thing, not that supposed ark that you see in the Midwest states, because that's not an ark, that's a boat. The ark was built as a box, basically a rectangular box. When you listen to the description in the Bible, build it 300 cubits long, build it 50 cubits wide, build it 35 cubits high. That's a rectangular box, not a boat, box. Because the interesting thing about it was with these waters coming in the way they were, there would be storms and waves and oceans and whatnot, but a regular boat would have a hard time weathering that storm without flipping. This boat here, the ark, the box, the science study, you can probably look it up online. Go Google Noah's Ark science experiment. That'll probably get you what you need. So with the model, and then they put it into a simulation of waves and water water bursting from out, and they found that it was a very stable boat because it wouldn't flip because of its design. It just didn't want to flip over because of the length and width and height of it. It's kind of an interesting thing. The biggest problem is figuring out exactly what a bloody cubit is. Because, according to the biblical times, a cubit is the distance between the elbow and the tip of the middle finger. Well, whose elbow? Whose middle finger? Some elbows to the tip of the middle finger are longer than others. So it's kind of a tough one to do. An Egyptian cubit, 20.63 inches or 52 centimeters. That's not a very big cubit. We take, when I did Google actually has an interesting conversion from cubits to meters, cubits to Bitcoin. Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, if you want to put in, 1 cubit, it's 1.5 feet. So if you get 15 cubits, that's only 22 feet. That's not very deep of the waters, because they say the boat only was lifted up 15 cubits. Or if we go with 300 cubits in length, 300 cubits in length, oops, that's only 450 feet. That's like 4 football fields. Okay, that's pretty decent. No, that's, 4 cubic. Okay, 450 cubits. So that's okay, that's not bad. That's a little bit bigger than I thought it would be. But hey, still, we're just dealing with, a football field's only 100 yards, or 100 meters, not 100 yards, or 100 yards long, not 100 feet. And in 100 yards, you have 300 feet. So it's a football field. It's a little longer than a football field. A little bit longer than a football field. All right, so let's do this right. At any rate, that's what I've got. Noah's Ark. We've hit it. Now I'm just rambling. We're going to call this will be the end of the Sunday morning podcast from the Rogues Tavern this week. We'll pick it up again next week with Chapter 8, and we'll just have some fun with it. So that's all I got. Take care.
Thank you.